It's time for the first comparison of the fantasy character throwdown. Round 1, comparison 1. Perrin Aybara from the Wheel of Time going up against Vin from Mistborn Era 1. This comparison is a lot closer than I thought it would be going in. It is still leaning a little heavily one side in my opinion. You can probably guess who, but let's go ahead and jump into the categories. The 6 categories that we use to compare characters are origin, development, role, interests, relationships, who would win in a fight, and if there is a tie at this point, we see who would do better in the other's world. So jumping in for Perrin and Vin, let's go with origin. We all know the Wheel of Time loves its fantasy tropes, and Perrin is no exception. He's a blacksmith from a small town who's kind of shy and quiet, and slowly comes to really recognize the great leader that's within him. He also can speak to wolves, and many other things like that develop with him that make him kind of original, especially to Wheel of Time standards, but nothing that sticks out as being revolutionary for the genre. Vin, on the other hand, goes against many fantasy tropes. One, she's a female lead, which, if we're being honest, is pretty rare in fantasy and refreshing to see. Vin has a very tragic origin, and keeping this mostly spoiler-free, let's just say it involved abusive parents, being raised in the streets, and eventually to becoming a member of a crime family. While morally she stayed very much so a decent person, she had to do some dirty deeds during this time. She's by no means a golden child, and with all of this originality, plus the execution being very good, compared to Perrin's not-so-original origins executed masterfully, I'm giving the slight edge to Vin. I just like the level of originality here. I like the whole crime background and being recruited into a rebellion that's also very well connected to the crime underground, and having that aspect play really closely to the entire world. And having that established tone and theme do an incredible job of help build the Mistborn world at the beginning of the series. I have to give Vin the point here. Her origin really lends to the entire beginning story of Mistborn and becomes such an integral part of how we're introduced to that world. Yes, I did just get the worst haircut of my life. Liar! Next up, we have development. Both of these characters develop quite a bit, but Wheel of Time has almost an unfair advantage over every other series in the fantasy genre when it comes to this.
Yep.
This is due to Robert Jordan's incredible focus on development and the fact that there's 14 books. And I'm going to go ahead and say Perrin's going to take the win, but let's get into why. Not only does he develop into a fully flushed character that we can really feel and relate to, and his actions almost always remain consistent with that, there is also the added benefit of this series switching genres, and Brandon Sanderson doing an incredible job of maintaining that character. I'm going to give bonus points there just for how impressive that is. But we follow Perrin from a nervous, kind of shy blacksmith all the way to being one of the most badass leaders the world of the Wheel of Time has ever seen. Yes, he walks with wolves and runs in the dream world, and Hopper will forever be tied to him. And seeing him along that journey is really one of the reasons we all love Perrin. He develops not only in personality, role, and ambition, but just in the general perception of him. By the end of the series, almost everyone, including the readers, has massive respect for Perrin Aybara, the Golden-Eyed King. Vin's development is very good on her own merits, though. Yes, she starts out as this kind of slumming criminal, but she ends up as a, well, without getting into spoilers, much higher position in life. She helps influence wars and take down a near god king. And the development along this journey is really well done. She doesn't change that much as a character besides gaining confidence, but our understanding of the unraveling of who is Vin is done wonderfully. It reminds me a lot of Elizabeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
May I kill him?
That being said, we're comparing hills to mountains when it comes to development, and Perrin's going to take the second point. Now we have the role they play in the world they're in, and the execution of that role. Now the Wheel of Time does suffer a little bit when it comes to role, in my opinion. It's so full of cliches and tropes, and a little predictable when it comes to who's going to do what for various reasons, that it can hurt the role the character embodies. That being said, Perrin is one of the best roles in the Wheel of Time. He doesn't deal with the chosen one trope, but he is also a part of prophecy, so there is interesting things there. He leads armies, but in a very frontline, gritty way. His bite is just as big as his bark. See what I did there? I am crazy about Perrin's role in this world as the Wolf King and someone who's helping forge a nation almost unwittingly. It's all done really well, but there is one huge hamper to it: the slog in the series. His role really comes to a standstill as he just stalks the Shan-Chan for 3 books. it does hurt a little because nothing's happening. It seems like we've stalled out midair and are just floating. It hurts a bit, but does it hurt enough for Vin to take the victory? Vin does fall into the chosen one cliche, which to me is always a negative. I really do not like that. It may be not a chosen one in the traditional sense, but let's be honest, it's what she really is. It is one of the best executions of the Chosen One trope, though, in my opinion. It stands out as being a lot of fun while being kind of realistic in the person's reaction to finding out these stories about them. Vin connects to the reader in her hesitance to kind of fully embrace her role throughout the series. Not only this, but there's kind of an expectation subversion going on with the role where we originally believe Kelsier might be the one who's going to really be the driving force behind the series, and then Vin takes up the mantle later on for spoilery reasons. What I have to do here, and I really hate doing it, is give this point a wash. Neither one of these characters stands out above the other in role in any drastic way, so this point will be a tie.
Oh, come on!
Now it comes for interest to the reader, and unfortunately there is a clear winner here because of one damaging thing. Vin's interest is wonderful. I think she's one of the best executed main protagonists of any fantasy series in a long time. Perrin, just as interesting throughout his entire 14-book arc, except for 3 whole books. Every time Perrin chapters really arise during those 3 whole books, it comes to a grinding halt. Other people are kind of doing some things during this time, but Perrin's not, and the interest begins to suffer more and more. You can skip entire books with Perrin. Nothing will really change besides a little bit of shallow drama between him and a noble, and you'll see Perrin torture an Aiel. Nothing that drastic. Because of this, I'm giving Vin the 4th point for interest. I do think Perrin at his peaks is more interesting than Vin, but with a 3-book downhill spiral, I cannot justify giving Perrin interest here. Now we have relationships, another area where Wheel of Time stands head and shoulders typically above everybody else. Vin's relationships, though, are nothing to turn your nose up at. She has a mentor figure with Kelsier who really helps us become introduced to the world. She also has a solid friendship with an alternative-ish being, without spoilers, I won't get into it, and a bunch of other friends that are all good characters in themselves, and a love interest that is executed much better than most fantasy relationships. Perrin, on the other hand, has one of the most middling romances in all of the Wheel of Time. Him and Fael never really inspire anybody for love. That being said, his relationships to many others around him really are deep and fascinating. He has friends that turn to enemies, and he is betrayed by some of the closest people to him. That's not even including his relationship to his 2 best friends, Rand and Mat. But for me, what gives Perrin the win when it comes to relationships is how he interacts with the wolves, and the relationship that's built there between him and this other species, and how it makes him so afraid of himself. This is a fascinating aspect to his character that is 90% of the reason he's as interesting as he is. I absolutely love it, and it'd be crazy to say Vin should take the relationship point, so I'm going to go ahead and give this one to Perrin.
You're goddamn right.
Now we have who would win in a fight. This is actually an interesting fight when you think about it, because it kind of comes down to a quick draw in my opinion. Can Vin kill Perrin fast enough that he cannot drag her into the dream world? Because if he does, her life will be over. Perrin could kill like Thanos in there. He's pretty much unstoppable. I think when it comes down to fighting style, it almost should go to Vin. She is an incredibly hard hitter. She can take down creatures like Koloss no problem. The only problem there is, though, Perrin, while he's being stabbed, could still go into the dream world and then kind of fix himself by creating more blood. That's something he's demonstrated to do. So even if she does manage to get one hell of a first shot in, Perrin could still drag her in. She might be fast enough to get that shot, but once she's in there, it's over. So unless it's a 100% lethal first hit, Perrin would win in my opinion. And that lethal first hit could happen, but with Perrin being such a big, strong, fast-reacting guy who's usually on his toes and has ridiculous speed feats for someone his size,
I'm gonna float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. George can't hit what his hands can't see.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that maybe 6 out of 10 times Perrin would take it, so Perrin gets the final point and the victory overall. You guys didn't think I'd knock Perrin out in the first round, did you? I adore Vin, and I wish I could see her go further on in this bracket, but in the first round, we will certainly see Titans of Fantasy fall. That being said, this is just the first match, and some real surprising toss-ups will happen. With the notes I've been taking, some of these upsets might lose me some subscribers down the road, but we'll see. I hope you guys liked the video. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I'm doing here and like to see the quality of the video keep increasing. I just ordered new lights, so the lighting should be getting a little better, and eventually eventually I will actually purchase a better camera as well. All that fun stuff. Let me know who you think should have won this comparison, and have a great day. Peace.